Good morning, student. Welcome to the second lecture of unit number 5. In the last lecture, we have discussed about what is Android filter and what are the different methods related to that intent. Now, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the intent filter and Android lifecycle, Android activity lifecycle. So, first of all, what is an intent filter? So, you would have seen some predefined filters, something like Android underscore action dot main in your Android manifest file. So intent filters are the parts that define in manifest file and are after activity component for that matter. It means that when you open your manifest file, in that manifest file, there is a intent filter. That means Android underscore action dot main file is available in your manifest file. So as a word defined, basically when we want to filter our application, by filtering, I mean I want to give some additional properties, some additional requirements, or some additional actions to my application, or I can say that to my activity. And at that point in time, I define intent filter. So if you remember that, we had used the intent action underscore call to call in our application when we try to call a phone directly. So we also use the send email option by using action underscore share option, or how all these things happens basically. This happens because of few parameters that we have passed in the intent filter. So let's see what is intent filter, what are the three parts it can have, and how we can have our own intent filter created. So basically there are three components like action, data, and category. So what is intent filter? An intent filter is defined by an intent filter element in the application manifest file nested in the corresponding app component, such as activity element. Inside the intent filter, you can specify the type of intents to accept using one or more of these three elements. So you can specify the type of intents. It means that either you can specify the implicit intent or explicit intent, because intent basically have two types, explicit and implicit. So by inside this intent filter, you can specify the type of intents to accept using one or more of these three elements. Now, which three elements? Action, data, and category. So first element is action. Declares the intent action accepted in the name attribute. The value must be the literal string value of an action and not the class constant. So it's a normal string value. We can have 2 or 3 actions, but we advise to add a new action tag for every time we are adding a new value to our new string, to our action. So next component is data. Declares the type of data accepted using one or more attributes that specify various aspects of the data URI, that is scheme, host, port, path, etc., and MIME type, that is multimedia type. So data means what? Data is accepted, say if it's mail, then we use mail to data or mail to URL. Now the last one is the category component. So declares the intent category accepted in the name attribute. The value must be the literal string value of an action and not the class constant. It means that now as you have seen that we define action in such a way that action colon action Android colon name, and then we pass the action name that we want to have. Now let's see how do we want to do it. So first being action, we have to make sure that there is an action, because this list cannot be empty. There has to be one action, otherwise it will block all intents. It may be remember that if your activity not having any intent action filter, then it would all the intent. If there are more than one actions, then we try it, or Android tries to match one of the mentioned action. Like there are some actions like there is a view, also I want it to be dialog, also at such point in time I would have, and try to match the maximum actions should be matched. So maximum is preferred, but even if one matches, then it open up the activity. Okay, so a filter, that is intent filter, may list more than one action, and the list cannot be empty. A filter must contain at least one action element, otherwise it will block all the intents. And if more than one actions are mentioned, then Android tries to match one of the mentioned action before invoking the activity. Now the second one is data. So a filter maybe list 0, 1 or more than one categories, and if there is no category mentioned, then Android always pass this test. But if more than one categories are mentioned, then for an intent to pass the category test, every category in the intent object must match a category in the filter. It means that in action, even if one matches, the action is taken up. But in the category, if there are no categories, it's fine, it will be executed. But if there are more than one, then it will match all the categories. And last one is the data. So each data element can specify a URI and a data type, MIME, that is media type. There are separate attributes like scheme, host, port, and path for each part of the URI. An intent object that contains both a URI and a data type passes the data type part of the test only if its type matches a type listed in the filter. It means that we have actually having some predefined preset values. If your application is matching that value, then we create the test. We are able to go to the phase, and our application will be able to have an intent filter applicable. So how to implement intent filters looking like? How intent filters looking like? The first action being the view. First, the action being the view. If you remember, we have action view when we try to open a contact. We have try to open a contact in implicit intent example. So this comes as a part of that particular intent filter, and category being default. So this is no additional category. There is only default category. So this is about the intent filter. Now the next most important topic that we have to discuss in today's lecture is that activity life cycle. So before I move ahead and discuss these things, as we have already seen that there are 4 main components for Android application development. They are respectively activity, service, broadcast receiver, and content provider. We have discussed about these 4 main components in the unit number 1, 2, 3 and 4. So there are 4 main components in Android application development. They are activity, service, broadcast receiver and content provider. So this lecture primarily focus on activity and its life cycle. So what is activity? So activity is the single screen in Android. It is like window or a frame of Java. And by the help of activity, you can place all your UI components, that is user interface components or widgets, in a single screen. So in simple terms, what is activity? If I ask you in a very simple term and in terms that we have been discussing activity, activity is nothing but a small user screen that you can see. Like if this is a user screen, that means this screen that you are seeing now. So if this is a user screen, then this screen is being altered or being controlled by an activity. Okay. So the screen that you can see on your monitor, that screen can be altered or being controlled by an activity. So if you have worked with the C, C++ or Java programming language, this is another example. If you have worked with the C++ or Java programming language, then you must have seen that your program starts from main function. And very similar way, Android system initiates its programs with in an activity, starting with call on create method, callback method. So this is a sequence of callback methods that start up an activity and a sequence of callback method that tear down an activity. So if I say activity is nothing but a user interaction for an Android application. So all the things you have clicked on the button, the action performed over there is for example, playing some music, you send some SMS, and all these things are closed in your Java classes, are done in our Java classes. These Java classes, we call them as activity. And so an activity is a unit of user interaction with an Android application. So second thing is that an activity represents a single screen with a user interface. So this point is very important for us. We have to make sure that the activity that we are having is corresponding to only one screen. Then the next is activities are represented by the activity class. Activity class is also called as superclass. So if you are making an activity in your application, you have to make sure that activity is being extended or extending activity of the Android. So how's it is? It is a subclass activity. It is a subclass activity. We have to extend this activity if in order to make our Java files as an activity file. Then activity have methods. You know there are methods in the Android, and all these methods can be overridden. We can do the coding we want to do. We can customize them according to our own need. And so all these methods can be overridden, and they are as a part of activity life cycle. So the last but not the least, the very first method which starts the activity of activity life cycle is the onCreate method. So as a word suggests, onCreate is called whenever the activity is started, after this small introduction of manifest, so the manifest file has all the activities listed in them. So if you are making an activity, you must make sure that it is required in the manifest file, because if it is not registered manifest and Android is not able to find it, then it will give you an error saying that activity is not existing and activity is closed itself. So make sure that if you make any new activity, you are registering this activity in your manifest file. And now let's have a quick look at the flow chart of the activity life cycle. So this is the flow chart of the activity life cycle. Now in this flow chart, you can see that there are number of methods like onCreate method, start method, resume, pause method, stop method, and destroy method. So first we will see in short what is these all methods do. So first is the onCreate method. So this is the first callback and call when the activity is first created. Then onStart method. This callback is called when the activity becomes visible to the user. It means that when first time activity is created, we have onCreate method. And when that activity becomes visible to the user, we have onStart method. And when user starts interacting with the application, there is a onResume method. Now we will see how these methods work actually with your applications in your mobile phone. But before that, let's have a quick look on what is this activity actually means. Then onPause method. The pause activity that does not receive user input and cannot execute any code and called when the current activity is being paused and the previous activity is being resumed. Then onStop method. When activity is no longer visible, that time there is a onStop method. Then onDestroy. The activity is destroyed by the system. So onDestroy method is called before an activity is destroyed by the system. And when activity restarts after stopping it, for that we have to call onRestart method. So let's discuss the flowchart of activity life cycle. So as I already told you, whenever an activity starts, the first method, this is activity launch, and whenever an activity starts, the first method which is being called is the onCreate method. So onCreate is that method which actually setting the content view for you. So the entire view that user could UC will be set in this onCreate method. So we will be discussing all these methods in detail. So let's have a look and see how the flow runs between and how we go from one method to another method. And after the onCreate method, the flow automatically redirects itself to the onStart method. Now onStart method is that method where we do operations. And whenever we know open some databases, things like that done in the onStart method. So after the onStart method, the activity flow or the flow of the application comes to the onResume method. Now we have a onResume method. So if in case we want that my application is coming from previous state, and then what do? I reset that particular state onto my own application to make sure as it is being running properly. So after this, the activity is running like if I'm playing some simple game like Temple Run, and also I'm using my WhatsApp application. So my application is running. and I am able to do WhatsApp. Everything is going on fine. The middle, I get a call from friend. After that, I call my application or my activity goes to the pause state. So in the pause state, we have to make sure that whatever the things that we want to say for future, that we want to save for future, I save and resume them. Now after the on pause, like after I'm verifying, I start chatting in my WhatsApp and I back on to my on resume method and I'm able to run my application and its flow. So, but after the on pause method, there might be a case that, after the call, there are things like I need to do some urgent mails. I need to go to send some SMS. In that case, the Android or operating system thinks it needs other applications to give that memory. Then what happens is that the process is killed and user, in case user navigates back, then activity starts from the on create method. Okay, getting it? So you would have seen many times, if you are RAM and if you are running in phone and if you pause a game, sometimes game pause and it go to the starting phase. Why? Because the process, that means the other process needing the memory, so the applications was closed up or the process was killed. Then after on pause method, if the process is not killed and nothing happens, then what happens is the activity is no longer visible. So activity is no longer visible and it goes to the on stop method. As the mode is very clear, on stop is when we are actually stopping our application and it has no longer been visible. So it comes over here, and after the on stop method, we are having two paths going out. The first path is one in which other things or other applications would needing the memory. Other things or other applications will needing the memory. So the process was killed, and if user come back from that point, then we called the on create method. But if in case the activity is in a stop and we are sending and you are sending your mails and SMS and you come back to WhatsApp again or you come back to your chatting again, then activity comes to the foreground. That is the another path. The activity comes back to the foreground, then activity will be restarted. So restarting will be similar to the function where we are trying to get that, okay, so what's my state? What's my state was with activity was closed. What message I was typing, things like that are done in the on restart method. And after this, the flow comes to constant and some cycle, the flow comes to the on start method and some cycle continues. Now the end result is that on stop method, neither my activity comes to foreground nor my activity, other applications are asking my memory. So what happens? On stop is immediately falls onto the on destroy method. So after on destroy, the activity has shut down. Now the activity is closed down, and this generally happens on calling of the on finish function. That means this activity shut down. So now after this, if I want to restart my application or I want to start, so I can start with activity again, clicking on the application method. That means clicking on the particular icon of that application. So this is all about the activity flowchart. That means activity life cycle. So there are total 7 methods in activity life cycle, and I think we have discussed it in details by using the flowchart of the activity life cycle.